Hey, it's another version of Something to Talk About. And as always, she is still Vaughn.
And he's still Stuart.
And we are here again. And we are here again with you on a Friday. But we want you to mark on your calendar that as of the 18th of this month, that's the third week of the month, we won't be on Friday that week. We're going to be on Wednesday. And every Wednesday after that, we are moving up to Hump Day, and our show is going to be every Wednesday, again at 11 o'clock in the morning, right here on KVGI Media. And we'll be just as excited to be with you on Wednesdays as we have been on Fridays for nearly 5 years. Right?
Nearly 5?
Yeah, nearly 5. 4 to 5 years we've been together. Man, I can't believe I've known you that long.
I can't either.
And we're not mad at each other either.
Well, we play nicely in the sandbox.
It's been a good marriage.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Phil and Lauren would agree.
That's right. That's right. And you know what? The nice thing is that for at least 1 hour every week, Phil and Lauren have peace and quiet in their lives, and they can do whatever they want because they know that the two of us are tied up for an hour.
That's right. That's right. Yep. Well, Phil's actually working. You know, he's still working from home.
Does he have an office and all that he goes into occasionally?
He does. Unfortunately, the way our office is designed, it's 2 French glass doors. So he's in there and the doors are shut, but we can still see each other if I'm in a certain part of the house. So I get the occasional, hey, can you make me a sandwich? I'm on the phone. Can you get me a Coke or something? So there's always a little waving here and there. And
so he's taking sign language.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think he'll be exactly. I think he'll be working remotely for a while. And anyway, their company has no near future plans of going back into the office anytime soon. So, which is fine. He can get his work done from here. And in fact, he has even said he gets more work done when he works from home because he doesn't have the commute and he doesn't have the interruptions that sometimes an office environment can bring. And so, yeah, it's fine. He enjoys it. But my
friend Jeremy is, Jeremy is pretty much the same way. He also has an office in his home. He does, however, go to his physical office a couple of days a week because each one of the offices is a separate glass cubicle and all closed in, so they have that proper social distancing. But they go a couple times a week because they have inter office conferences and all. But other than that, he's doing all of his work from home. Sometimes he'll get into a 3 or 4 hour virtual meeting that and everybody else stay away from the office for that time.
Right.
But a lot of companies are that way, and some people do go into their physical offices occasionally, but for the most part, they are still working remotely.
Right. Well, and everybody's having to make modifications to their working schedule and where they go, when they go, and whatnot. And so much of our life really has been just we've had to just be creative in terms of how we lead as much of a normal life as possible and still stay safe and careful with COVID and all that and the restrictions that have been put in place. And we found it interesting, you and I, to think about not necessarily people who are working, but even those that do a lot of volunteering in our communities. And gave a little thought to what are they doing during these times to continue meeting the needs of so many organizations that need support, whether it's through donations or financial donations,
Right.
or actual face-to-face face-to-face support. What are they doing during these times to continue these efforts and stay safe at the same time?
Well, that's the beauty of our show, and that is that we go text each other each week as to what we're going to talk about, and Lord knows we've spent a lot of time on COVID from a lot of different aspects. We spent a show talking about how it's affect the educational system. We've talked about specifically restaurateurs that depend on people walking through their doors and ordering food and eating food, and the effect that it's had on their help. We've talked about small businesses, the soft goods businesses, and the one area that we kind of have just kind of fluffed over and all, and that's why we wanted to talk a little more about it today, was the nonprofit area, because we all, over the years, many of us have our own favorite nonprofits, and then there's always those little extras. But nonprofits, the word says it all. They are not in business to turn a profit. They are in business to collect money and collect funds in order to help those that nonprofit represents. Well, if you cut off that stream, let's take cancer for an example. If the money that you raise every year, be it from golf tournaments or from fashion shows or just something, telethons, the money that you raise is to go help cancer patients get their treatments, go to their doctors. If that's what you're in business for, and all of a sudden COVID says, A, you can't go out, B, maybe you're going to be on furlough for a while, or your money is being trimmed. That means less people are giving. Well, the need is still there, but that ability for the nonprofits to help those people all of a sudden gets hurt. What do you do? And obviously some nonprofits are closing their doors. Some nonprofits are saying, hey, we got to do something. And there's other nonprofits that have already sat down and said, wait a minute, this all started in February and March, and by April, they had new plans in effect of what they're going to do in order to raise those funds that they need.
And not only is it, I mean, you're exactly right. There are a lot of there are hundreds and thousands of nonprofits out there that still obviously continue to need support, whether it's financial or, like I said, face-to-face support. For example, elderly assisted living areas. They oftentimes have volunteers come through and work with the residents in some way, whether it's just keeping them company or taking them grocery shopping or whatever the need might be. But they've had to completely stop that. Obviously, they're at high risk, and you can't have that face to face. And then there are other organizations. Obviously, there are shelters, women's shelters. They have their children with them oftentimes. There are animal shelters. Ronald McDonald House, for example. They've got families coming through that stay there if they have a family member, in a long stay at a hospital nearby. There are places that obviously still maintain a great need for these volunteers to actually come in. If the purpose of the nonprofit was to get funds donated, that is an easy thing to continue doing. It's the face-to-face where they've had to become a little more creative in terms of how they allow the volunteers to continue working with their organization, but stay, follow the restrictions and the guidelines of COVID and stay safe. In most of these nonprofits, if you go online and look, whatever nonprofit it is that you have been volunteering for or would like to volunteer for, they actually have COVID kind of new guidelines, and they'll walk you through how you can continue to be a volunteer for their organization and stay safe at the same time. Some of these organizations even still allow the face-to-face if you feel comfortable coming and being physically present to do whatever it is that we need, to do whatever volunteering they need.
Right.
You could, they've designed ways that you could do that where you are social distance, you're wearing a mask, and you're still able to do it if you're comfortable even getting out to do it. If you're not, then they have a list of things that you can do for their organization that will still meet their needs and keep you safe and at the same time. And I noticed that a lot of organizations have gone online and put their new kind of COVID-19 guidelines for volunteering. And so they've made it easier for the volunteer to learn how they can continue to volunteer and stay safe at the same time.
Yeah, and to your point, I think one of the primary nonprofits that's exactly what you're talking about is your like food pantries or your those that have set up feed the homeless, where the homeless used to go and get a hot meal, and the volunteers would be there scooping out the food and putting it on trays and all for them to sit down and eat. What they've done is a lot of them are pre-preparing packages of food, either hot food or dry goods, and pre-packaging, and then having a drive-through, and the people that are in need will come through and they simply hand a bag full of food to the recipients. And that's part of that, having to change your program to fit the need, because the need is still there. The people are still hungry. The people are still homeless and displaced, and they still need that help. It's a matter of how do you now get that help to them? And
Right.
Then instead of having all those volunteers coming down to cook the food and serve it and all, now you have to have those volunteers that are collecting the funds in order to buy the food or come down to a socially distanced area in order to prepare it and package it and all for distribution. I know one of the nonprofits that you work with, Fast Packs, is doing that. The schools are closed, but there's still a need to feed that population that doesn't have enough food. And while those kids were getting meals in school, now they are not getting those meals. So there's an even greater need for programs like that now than there even was before the pandemic.
Yeah, there are for sure too, because and there are more people in those situations now, even more people now, just due to the fact that people have lost their jobs during all this time. Businesses obviously have been closing. And so there are more families in need of donations, like specifically food donations and other types of donations. Those types of volunteer efforts, I think, would be a fairly easy kind of fix, because you can drop things off safely and keep social distance, keep your social distance. So it's those types of things that are organizations that I would believe are still maintaining their fundraising efforts and their donations and things like that, because you can continue that type of volunteering and stay safe. The interacting, I know that I used to be a member of the National Charity League, and that is an organization made up of mothers and their daughters who volunteer together in the community. And they work with multiple nonprofit organizations across the country. A lot of the volunteering that they do is interactive. It's going to, like I said, the Ronald McDonald House, and interacting with the families of the patients and making meals for them on site. Shoes for Orphan Souls, where you actually go to the facility and you kind of assemble packages of shoes and things like that, and you're working together almost in an assembly line type environment. That's just to give you a couple examples how that type of volunteering is interactive. But I talked to the president of our local chapter here yesterday, and she said we're just having to think outside the box a little more right now in terms of how we continue to provide our services and keep our girls and mothers safe at the same time. And they just had to kind of get together and be a little bit more creative in how they do it. Ronald McDonald House, for example, instead of making meals on site, they're making meals off site and they're catering instead. There's not a lot of interaction right now with the families because you can't. And Shoes for Orphan Souls, instead of going and working warehouse, they had a shoe drive. And so they had shoes donated and brought in that they delivered. So I think that what I like to hear is just that it's a discussion that's being had, and these groups of volunteers are recognizing that they need to continue to volunteer now more than ever, but they just have to be creative. Well, first of all, the first step really is to talk to your whatever nonprofit organization you're volunteering for, because a lot of them have put together their new guidelines and whatnot, and have pretty much written out for you how you can continue to volunteer and meet their needs. And so most businesses or organizations have that in place already. But if not, you as the volunteer can come up with your own kind of creative ways, find out what the organization's needs are, and come up with your like she said, the president of NCL, think outside the box. How can you meet, if it's a cash donation, that's pretty easy. If it's a food donation, you can drop it off in individual packages, like you said. But if it's more of an interactive thing, maybe it's something that can be held outdoors. I know for another thing that they did at National Charity League here, NCL, they oftentimes would go to local senior citizen facilities, and they would play games with them. They would play bingo and whatnot. They would do paint nails. They would just interact, because it's so important to have that interaction. And right now it's so devastating that so many of our elderly people are alone right now, just alone. And you can imagine how that has such a negative impact on just their mental state. Well, they've been going and chalking, with the sidewalk chalk. They've been putting positive messages in sidewalk chalk outside the facility. And when they leave, they're letting the patients or the residents or whatever kind of go out with their masks on, look at the messages that have been left for them. So they're just really, everybody's just trying to come up with, just be creative and still try to meet the needs of these nonprofits across the country.
Yeah, and that's one of the points that I wanted to make, is that the need has not lessened. In fact, in many cases, some of the needs are even greater than they
Right.
were prior to the pandemic. It's just a matter that wherever you live around the country, and I'll find out where some of those needs are and see what you can do to help, whether you can physically help, maybe you can financially help a little bit, because we can all go online and donate to some of these organizations. The largest increase in people that are now Zooming for socializing and everything is the senior population. There's lots of retirement communities that are teaching seniors how to Zoom so that they can sit in their homes and be in touch with their families, also be in touch with their friends. In some cases, I saw they're playing cards virtually. They're doing games virtually. They're having lectures where they would all have to go into a room at their retirement facility and then bring a guest lecturer in to talk to them for an hour. They've eliminated even that social distancing for that and taught everybody how to Zoom, so you can now get the speaker to talk to a group of 60, 80, 100 people virtually, and everybody's safe. So it's a matter of not saying, let's just postpone it for a year until this is over. It's a matter of saying we need to keep doing these things now and doing it a little differently.
Absolutely. And you're right about the computer. Our computer right now is our best friend because it can bring us together via Zoom, like you said, one-on-one, or you can actually, I know my neighbor had a law event via Zoom. I believe they had some in person, maybe, I don't know how many people, but they were, I think the panel was in person, but they were social distance wearing their masks. So the panel was in person, but then everybody else joined the event via Zoom, and it was a fundraiser and very successful. But you're right about, virtual interaction right now. It's been key, and not only like virtual there have been virtual fundraisers like that one, but then also just staying connected, like you said. Getting people together on Zoom to play a game. I know that there's virtual bingo. I mean,
right.
And so it is. I think it's a blessing that we have the technology that we have right now, because it is very much supporting many needs, especially during this time right now. And one main need is to stay connected with other human beings. And so it's something that I know has been utilized. They're doing it even through NCL in some of their nonprofit organizations when they need to utilize. When it needs to be interactive, they're utilizing, they're doing it virtually. Virtual volunteer. You could even go on and say you want to help them raise money. You can promote. Maybe you just take it upon yourself as a volunteer to promote the organization online and to make sure people remember that, Operation Kindness, which is a homeless shelter for pets, for animals here in Dallas-Fort Worth area. Maybe you go online and as a volunteer, you put them out there. You put them on your Facebook page, and you remind people, hey guys, Operation Kindness, they're in need of 100 blankets by this weekend or whatever. You can volunteer in that way by just promoting these organizations and keeping them in front of people so that they know and remember, hey, we have to remember that there are still many nonprofits out there that, quite frankly, could be in financial trouble right now just because they're not getting the attention and the donations that they're used to getting. You can help in that regard. Virtually.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. You have to remember that a lot of these organizations that have physical locations, they're not just an office that's collecting money and then paying out money to help people. You mentioned shelters. I mean, the shelters are filled with animals that need adoption and all, but they still have to take care of those animals on a daily basis. They have to feed them, they have to care for them, they have to maintain them, and there's a cost involved. So yeah, if you can put on a mask and go down and spend a few hours holding an animal in your arms to show it the love that it deserves, then do that. There'll be guidelines for the shelters. If they don't match what you're looking for, then find another one. But the need is still there, and if not, again, maybe you can donate an extra $10 for every 100 people that donate $10. That's another $1,000 that they can have to feed the animals. And this goes across the board. I was just thinking earlier about the entertainment industry. My goodness, this has been a huge smack to the entertainment industry, both the visual as well as the art type industry. Concerts. Many large concerts have been canceled, but even the smaller venues are closed. Well, a lot of entertainers are going online and doing virtual concerts. Mm-hmm. I have some dear friends back in the Chicago area that are, folk singers and all. What are they doing? They're doing concerts from their living rooms. and asking people to link in and listen. They'll play for an hour and they'll say, listen, I just want to keep playing. I want to keep on singing. If you would like to donate, and I'll just hit the donate button. And if you want to make a donation but it's not, it's not required. It's
Right.
just something that you can do. And I got a news for you. There's a lot of great entertainment out there that you can go online and you can make a $20 donation or so to a group that you would normally spend $50, $60, $70 for a seat in a venue, and then also pay $20 to park your car. Now you can sit in the comfort of your own living room on your computer or on your big screen and watch that entertainment. So that, there's a trade-off there, and it's a matter of just reaching out. Google it.
Yeah. Well,
This is
you're
going
right.
on all over the country.
And you're right about reaching out, because you need to be the one to take the initiative to look for these organizations, and not just the nonprofit organizations like the obvious ones that we've been talking about. I
Right.
mean, locally here, we've got the animal shelters and the women's shelters and all of that. But then there are obviously the big ones, the national ones, American Heart, Ronald McDonald. The list goes on and on, but
Sure.
most of them will outline for you, again, how you can volunteer for their organization under these certain life circumstances right now. But then you brought up a good point when you started talking about the entertainment kind of world. That's something else that you forget. You have a tendency to forget about, I think, because there are the obvious nonprofits that need your support, but also then think about the museums, local museums and art studios, and local music, like music. You were saying musicians and whatnot,
Right.
and you independent artists. Reach out, because they're in great need right now. Think about the museums. We have a local museum here in Frisco, as you know, the Heritage, that whole area over there. They're in financial, trouble right now, just because they haven't been able to have people come through and whatnot. And there are ways, again, that you can go and help them financially, to just keep them open until people can really start to get in and out and back into these places. But you have to be the one to kind of go out there and do it locally. It doesn't have to be a big national one, but go locally and see what's out there that really, where, places and businesses that might need your support right now. And if they don't have kind of the COVID-19 new guidelines for volunteering and what they need, you can reach out to them, and ask the question. If it's a local museum that you think that you'd like to support, and they don't have anything written or a website or whatnot, call them and ask them what are your needs right now under the current circumstances? How can we help and volunteer and support and provide, and stay safe at the same time?
Well, that's true, and some of these museums also have taken the time to come up with a virtual tour and all. You can go in and they'll have a donate button, and you donate $10 and they'll send you a link, and you can go in and go on a virtual tour of the place. We attended a virtual art auction, about a month or so ago. Because you couldn't go there to bid on the artwork, so they had the artwork on the screen. You signed up in advance for it, and then they were presenting the works of art, and you could actually bid on the artwork virtually. There are a lot of avenues that are available if you seek them out,
Right.
and you have to take advantage of it. And I encourage you to do it, because when we're talking about the arts, wherever you are, large cities, small towns, if there are some avenues to listen to music, to look at art, to attend lectures, if there is a charge for it, it's usually a minimal charge, and a lot of them are doing it just to keep their presence out there, and it doesn't cost anything. And if you really enjoyed it, then turn around and maybe make a donation to them for doing that. This is impacting an awful lot of this not-for-profit a segment. We briefly talked, and it's something to think about. We're getting into the time of the year where people every other year would start flocking to the malls, for all of the specials that are going on in the stores, in the malls. And at every entrance to those malls has been a volunteer with a little bell ringing with a bucket for you to drop your spare change and dollar bills in to help support the Salvation Army. A lot of the malls are either closed or they are operating at maybe 25% capacity, and the need is still there for nonprofits like the Salvation Army, but their coffers are going to be much thinner this year. So what's the option? Go online to the Salvation Army, and if you normally drop $5 or $10 into those buckets, make the donation online.
Yeah, it'll just make you feel better if you do.
Yeah, and you're doing the same thing. Yeah, it's not the same as actually saying thank you for helping out and listening to the little bell ringing and all, but the bottom line is the same. It keeps them in business, and it keeps them helping the people that really need those funds.
Yeah, absolutely. There are so many ways you can continue to still make your donations and do your part in helping your community and finding that it's going to take maybe a little bit more effort on your part in terms of like kind of figuring out their new way right now, at least during these times. But it might take a little more effort, but it's not really that difficult. And I mean, because I kind of went around when you and I decided to talk about this, and I went online and bounced around from nonprofit to nonprofit organization. And like I said, most of them kind of have it all outlined for you. So it takes the thought process away, and then you can just get to action. But yeah, I think it's important. And I think right now, probably people are just in a kind of a place where it's hard to think outside your own home. It's hard to think,
right.
Because we're also overwhelmed right now and burdened with what's going on and how it's affecting us personally and affecting our family. And that's natural to feel that way and to think that way. But I think you'd be doing yourself a favor if you remember that it'll make you feel better too. If you continue to look around you and identify those around you who are in greater need and experiencing this situation in a way that's negatively affecting them greater than you perhaps. And certainly these nonprofit organizations, they're not going to go away. So I don't know. It's something that I think is easy to do. And it'll, again, like I said, it'll make you feel good at the same time.
You also said that if a lot of us are sequestered in our homes and we've got a little bit of extra time on our hands, and let's say you want to give one day a week to a nonprofit. Well, again, Google is your best friend. Google in there and say, nonprofits that need help in my area, and find out. It may be a shelter, it may be a nonprofit. Here in North Texas, there's the Veterans Center of North Texas. They have been asking for people to give up 4 hours a week, one day a week, for a 4-hour shift to come in and assist at the Veterans Center, fielding phone calls, assisting veterans that walk in that need to use the computer to search for jobs and for shelter. So again, it's a controlled environment. And you can put on a mask and wear it and help out for 4 hours, one day a week. I mean, it's something that an awful lot of us that are listening to this show and have friends and family that say, I am tired of sitting on my butt and just watching Netflix all day, every day, that maybe I can go out and help a veterans organization, a food pantry for 4 hours a week. Call one of the local pantries, say, listen, I can give you one day a week for a full day or a half a day. Could you use some help? Oh, my gosh, they'll probably go down and kiss your feet for you just even asking. But it's something that we as responsible human beings can do to help others, and that is by just reaching out and looking for it.
And if you're not comfortable going out, there's so much that you can do, like you and I talked about, virtually and even online. Like there are actually more than I would have thought online fundraisers going on. I know the month of November, I think it's called, oh gosh, what's it called? Maybe I wrote it down. It's, I did. Grow a Mo. Have you ever heard of this? Grow a Mo for Movember. Grow a Mo for Movember. It's to help raise money for health projects to fight prostate cancer and testicular cancer. And what it is I guess you're to grow a funny mustache and, be creative in how you grow your mustache during the month of November. And it raises money for those issues, those health issues. And I mean, that's online. I mean, if you go online, it's very creative. And I mean, I know that our, if you go online, look for, if you're not comfortable getting out and wearing the mask and interacting with people and whatnot, that's fair. Then there are a lot of online fundraisers that you can participate in, still be a part of the fundraising efforts from the comforts of your own home. Again, the computer is our best friend right now. And the Zooming is a great thing because, I did a lot of volunteer work through the National Charity League. And one thing I did a lot of was going over to the Senior Citizen Center here in Frisco. And I interacted with attended holiday parties and played games and whatnot. And I just think it's devastating to think of those people right now in those facilities not having that human kind of interaction. But with Zoom, you can do it. You can still, and ask the facility, if you've got a local Senior Citizen Center in your area, ask the facility, do you have laptops? Do your residents have access to laptops or to computers or whatever? And if they don't already have something in place, you be the one to bring it to them, bring the idea to them. And just like you and I are looking face to face right now and chatting, you could do that with a resident who's locked indoors right now.
That's right. And also, if somebody plays piano, or somebody plays guitar, and they are not going out and entertaining in venues, maybe you could hook them up with a senior community and virtually go on and play some show tunes for a group of senior citizens that are, they're normally spend a lot of time in their rooms, and sometimes we'll go down to a common area for a happy hour or for a little entertainment, and they can't do that. But if they can go online and for an hour listen to a pianist or a violinist or somebody playing music or even lecturing, just telling jokes, telling stories.
You should do that, Stuart.
Yeah, I probably could.
You're a good storyteller and you're a good joke teller. Maybe you should do that.
There you go. Something else for me to do with my spare time, huh?
Yeah, but I know, but again, the online fundraisers, there are a ton of them out there. Go, like you said, Google. I know here in our local community, we've had fundraisers for senior classes. They'll do like drive-through fundraisers, things outdoors. I mean, honestly, what I'd like to believe is that, maybe even nonprofits and volunteering will become a greater focus of people, understanding that perhaps the need could be even greater now than it was before. I think I came across, like in 2019, more than 77.4 million Americans volunteered for various nonprofits, which added up to, I think, 6.9 billion hours of service worth an estimated $167 billion. So that's what we did last year in 2019 in terms of volunteer work. I'd be very curious to see at the end of 2020. Well, it's not going to be higher than those numbers for sure, but
We'll be lucky if it's half of those numbers.
If it's even but maybe now where we are in this pandemic, maybe now people are able to kind of switch their focus a little bit and remember the needs out there, and are going to address them even more so now than they would have had this COVID never happened. So I'm being a hopeful thinker that in that way, but hopefully that, because those are big numbers. Those are very big numbers, and we don't want to see that go away.
Well, and I'm personally being creative too in this time, because anybody who follows my Facebook page, I just posted on my Facebook page that 1 month from now I'm going to turn 75 years old. A lot of people have said, "What are you going to do?" You know, a year ago, we started talking about having a party and inviting all of our family and friends to come to a big party. That ain't going to happen.
Right.
And several people said, "Well, what do you want for your birthday?" And I don't want or need anything. So what I did was, and I invite anybody that's watching this show to go to my Facebook page. And what I'm saying is that anybody who knows me, I want a gift from you, but I want it a special way. What I want you to do is, in honor of my 75th birthday, I want you to make a donation to your favorite charity. And then usually the charity will send a notice out that says a donation has been made in honor of your 75th birthday by so-and-so, and they send a card out. You can send that card to Stuart Sachs, P.O. Box 5444, Frisco, Texas 75035. And my goal is I want at least 750 people to make a donation to any charity of your choice. And I want to get at least 750 notices that donations have been made. Do the math.
I think that's great.
If you make a donation for $10, 750 people, we can raise $7,500 for donations. And it's not my donation, not my nonprofit. It's the nonprofit of your choice. So if it's to a shelter, if it's to a cancer foundation, if it's to the Salvation Army, if it's to a church organization, that's up to you. But hey, have fun with it and join me and do something like that.
Because I think that's a very great thing you're doing, Stuart.
Yeah, and I mean, I want to have fun with it. I want to see how many cards I get, because I'm challenging everybody to do it. And for $10, less than the price of a pizza, and you can help an organization in your hometown, wherever you are, not a national organization unless you want to. But I really encourage you to look into the local organizations in your town that need a little help. Make a small donation and say, I'm doing it in honor of a friend's 75th birthday.
Well, I think it's great. And I know that there are many people right now out there who might be experiencing financial kind of difficulties right now. But there are even ways to support nonprofits and not have to pay a dime. And I actually do it a lot here, just because I'm always trying to clean out things. There's an organization called, I think it's called Recycle to Support, or Recycle to Support, I believe is what it's called. The number 2, like recycle, the number 2 support.
Oh, okay.
Or it could be support. It's those words. If you Google, it'll pop up. But anyway, what it is it's an organization that comes by and picks up things right off your porch. So there's no interaction with anybody. You just put the things that you're wanting to get rid of out on your front porch, and you select a pickup day and time, and they'll come and pick it up and take it away. And it goes to, when you sign up to do this, you get to pick which organization you want the items to go toward.
Okay.
What they do is then they take those items and they resell them at a very discounted price, obviously. And then the proceeds go to whatever organization you pick. They've got a list of them from which you can pick.
That's a great idea. I didn't even know about that.
It really is. So you don't have to reach into your wallet and you can just, and you're cleaning out your house at the same time, and you put it out there, and then you are actually kind of in a way making a financial donation to those organizations, because they get the proceeds after reselling your items. So there are things of that you can look into there too. If you're in a position right now where you don't feel comfortable making financial donations, you can get rid of things in your house, which turns out to be a financial donation in the end.
That, it's a great idea. I mean, it's even when you go to the grocery store and you buy some food, pick up a few extra cans of food, non-perishables, and hold on to them, put them in a bag, and then call a local pantry and say, I got a bag of non-perishable food for you. If you can swing by and pick it up, it's yours. You can do it.
And you're right about that. And something else just popped into my mind when you were talking about grocery stores. I love it when the grocery stores do the rounding up fundraisers. I just think that is such an easy but brilliant idea, because who doesn't want to round? My personality very much is to round up. If my bill is, $43.78, I don't know, whatever, do you want to round it up to 45 or whatever? Do you want to round up to the next dollar? Do you want to round up to, so I'm like, sure, round it up to 45. That just makes me feel, that's my personality too. When I'm at the gas pump, I tend to kind of keep pumping till it gets like a nice round number.
Nice even number.
Yeah. So for me at the grocery stores, I'm like, absolutely, round it up. Think about if everybody going through the grocery store that day and on every lane,
right,
rounds up. I mean, that could be thousands every day of dollars just by rounding up. I think it's
some of the groceries too now, as we get into the holidays, are pre-packaging bags. And when you're buying your groceries, they'll say, would you like to donate $10 or something to buy one of these pre-packaged bags that we're going to be distributing? There's lots of ways. I think the most important thing that Vaughn and I want to share with you, our audience, is that whatever avenue you choose, please have it in your heart at this holiday time, this very difficult holiday time that we're getting ready to enter, to do something for other people in some way, to look at nonprofit organizations and actively get involved. That's our message for you. And
absolutely.
And I hope you've enjoyed the show. I hope we've given you a little bit of information. Bottom line, Google is your best friend, or call your local organizations and say, I can either donate a little bit of my time or maybe donate a little bit of my money. And what do I have to do? But be proactive in doing it.
Absolutely.
And that'll do it. Again, we will be with you again next Friday, but the week after that, it'll be on Wednesdays. So go out and make it a good one. Thanks for dropping into something to talk about. And we'll catch you again next week.
Have a great day, everybody.
See ya.